Hey YouTube, what is going on? Welcome to the Straight SRT8 YouTube channel. Now today, I want to talk to you guys about tips and tricks to hearing what your vehicle is telling you. Our cars communicate with us all the time. They give us subtle clues here and there and let us know about things that are going on as we drive the vehicle. It may be a noise here, it may be a clank there, a certain smell, just something odd or off by the car. And this video is going to teach you guys how to understand those things and what the car is actually telling you. And it should be fast. I'm trying to go as fast as I can, trying to get these videos to be a little bit shorter than they usually are. With that said, let's get to it. So we're outside. First thing I want to discuss with you guys is your tires. So there's two different measurements you can do of the tires. The first is looking at towing. So towing is when you're looking straight at your car, you want to see both tires pointed straight in front of you. They should point directly at you. If they're pointed in or they're pointed out, that's towing issues. So what that looks like is, as far as tread is concerned, on your tread, if your tire is supposed to be straight and it's like this, but you're trying to drive straight, you're going to see wear on the outsides or the inside of your tire, depending on if you got toe in or you got toe out. So what you'll see is even wear throughout here, and then either on your inside or outside, it's going to have much less wear. You can tell looking at these little nubs. These are your wear marks, and this tells you when it's time to change the tire out. You can compare these to your outside, to your centers, and to your insides, and see if they're consistent or not. And if they're not, that can be an issue with your towing. Now the next one is camber. So camber means that your tires are supposed to be perfectly perpendicular to the floor. And if they're rocked in or rocked out, you have a positive and negative camber. And that can cause issues for wear as well. So for example, if you have a camber issue, you may have a lot of tread here, and then as you go from the inside to the outside of the tire, you get more tread, less, none. Or vice versa, a lot of tread, less, none. If you have an even wear where it's, or if you have a, not even wear, but if you have a higher amount here and a less amount here, or vice versa, that's usually a camber issue. Now when it comes to inflation, your tire should be perfectly have even wear across the entire face of the tire, like these ones do. If you have a lot of tread on the inside and not a lot on the outside, it means your tire is probably underinflated, meaning that there's almost no contact on the center of the tire, but you have a lot of contact on the edges, and that's going to cause premature wear on the edge, not on the center. Now vice versa, it would be overinflated tires, where the center of the tire has almost no tread and the edges have a lot of tread. Next, we're going to discuss clinks and clanks. So by that I mean when you're driving down the road and you hear a binding or a grinding or like a metal on metal, like skipping sound, like gears are kind of meshing together. We're going to discuss that. So in our cars, we have a transmission, of course. You got a transfer case, and you got front and rear differentials. And there's ways to test these independently. So the first one is the transmission. There's a mode we have. It's called eco mode, and it allows your car to start in second gear versus in first gear. So that means that as you're going from a stop to a start, it takes longer to engage because you're not starting in first gear. So your transmission, your clutch kind of eases a little bit and then grabs and then goes. Now, normally, perfectly fine. But what I notice is that when you're under moderate throttle, say you're at a stop and you're trying to go to get traffic or to beat traffic or to get in front of a car, and you give it moderate throttle, it takes a second to fully engage. And that's because you're telling the car to not engage fast, but you want to engage it in second gear, and it takes a minute to actually allow it to slip and then grip. So I recommend taking it out of eco mode, and that's going to engage a lot faster. Now for your transfer case, if you're driving straight, your transfer case isn't doing a whole lot of work. But as soon as you start turning in one direction or the other, it starts doing work. So for example, if you're making a right-hand turn and you hear a clinking sound right down here, that's your transfer case. It means you got a transfer case issue where it can no longer distribute power between your front and the rear properly. Now, if you're driving and you're making a right-hand turn and you hear a clink in the way back or in the front, that's probably a differential. Differential splits power between your left and your right tires for both your backs and your fronts. So depending on where you hear that noise can tell you whether it's an issue with your transfer case, your transmission, your differentials in the front or in the rear. Next, we're going to discuss stinks. So by that I mean, if you're the kind of person that stores your car throughout the fall and spring, and you want to take it out in the summertime, and you turn your car and you get a weird smell, you always want to check your air filter. Little critters get inside our cars, and sometimes they make nests, like rats and mice and whatnot, on the air filter or inside the vents somewhere. And so oftentimes by pulling that air filter out, you can actually see debris in there. If it's, or rodents, worst comes to worst. But it's always a good idea, if your car has a sudden rancid smell, always check your air box and your air vents. Sometimes you can see little things getting stuck inside there. You can go ahead and pull them out. Smell goes away. So next I want to discuss the AC units. So if you're the kind of person that stores your car, you may turn it on one day and realize you're hearing this whooshing sound coming through your AC vents or through your vents in general. Or let's say you've been driving your car, everything's been fine, all of a sudden you hear a whooshing sound, gets louder and louder and louder. That usually indicates your car is low on Freon. That can be for one of two reasons generally. Either you need to recharge your system or you've got a leak. So the easiest and cheapest way to figure this out is go to your favorite parts store and then buy a little canister of Freon that allows you to recharge the system. They're like 50, 60 bucks or so. You can go ahead and do it yourself and recharge your AC. If the problem goes away, great. You just had to recharge your Freon, not a big deal. But if it comes back, it means you have a leak somewhere with your AC system and needs to get serviced by your mechanic. All right, and then the last topic for today would be exhaust noises. So let's say your car is making a new tone or a new noise, and maybe it got louder than it used to. That's usually indicative of an exhaust leak somewhere. So there are two ways I try dealing with this. Either way, you gotta jack up your car. So maybe you won't bring it to a mechanic for this, but jack up your car and put it on jack stands. And then I like to run the car and put my hands around the exhaust. So I'm not actually touching the exhaust so you get burned, but put it around the exhaust pipe and feel for air pressing against your hand. It'll be pulsating. That's an easy way to find out where you have an exhaust leak. Or you can use like soap water and spray it on there, or some other kind of a goop, and look for it bubbling. And that's how you know you're gonna have an exhaust leak. Those typically occur wherever you have rust or corrosion, or it can be a simple gasket where you have two pieces of metal joined together and that gasket is now worn down over time and needs to be replaced. It happens all the time. If it's none of those, it could be a fact that your muffler is starting to wear out. So mufflers have insulation in them, and they differ a little bit from car manufacturer to car manufacturer, but it kind of looks like fiberglass or insulation. So if you've noticed that over time your car spitting out little fiberglass pieces or little black strands of like almost insulation look like material, that's going to be your muffler breaking down, which happens over time. So if that's the case, you're going to need to get your muffler replaced to get that exhaust back down to where it used to be. Okay guys, it's hot. That's it. I'm talking as fast as I can. If you got questions, drop them down below. I'll see you guys next time.